All right, let's talk about a couple young quarterbacks because neither's going to see playoff football, but one might not have been seeing a starting position next season, if not for this last 2 months or so. Bryce Young has come of age, for lack of a better term, under his play caller head coach who had touch points with Baker Mayfield, getting the most out of him.
Yep.
Where have you seen the greatest growth for Young here down the stretch that makes you believe that they do have their franchise quarterback?
So the big thing with Bryce Young was that he's 5'10", probably played at 180 coming out of Alabama, and he had to be special in every single thing he did because he's undersized, doesn't have a big arm. He's athletic, but he's not going to run around like he's Anthony Richardson. And he came in right away and was in a terrible situation, and it showed. And I think he lost confidence more than anything. And the biggest stride I saw, and by the way, guys, he was benched in week 2, and we're like, okay, well, trade him to Miami where he can be Tua's backup and then hopefully revitalize his career like he's Baker Mayfield. Instead, he sat on the bench. Andy Dalton eventually came out after that car accident, and he took off. And the biggest change for me, and Dave Canales deserves a ton of credit, but so does Bryce, his ability to quiet his feet in the pocket. Because what we saw for the first 18 or so games of his career, he looked like he'd never played football before. He saw a bunch of 320-pound guys coming at him, and he was like, one read, and I'm gone, and usually taking a hit. Hangs in the pocket, making big boy throws like he's Alabama versus LSU, and it's been a difference of night and day in terms of how much he's progressed.
It's been impressive to watch. We'll see how that growth continues to happen over these next couple of years for Young, or next season specifically. Emory, on the other side of this one, I'm taken back to a conversation that we sat and we had at length. When was the right time to move on from Kirk Cousins to Michael Penix Jr.? And maybe it's a week too late. You can play the what-if game, but he did everything you can ask of a young quarterback put in the situation that he was. What impressed you most?
He was playing playoff football the last 3 games. The games that he started, he was playing for the postseason. So you like that he's playing in these high-leverage games that he didn't flinch. And that's huge for them moving forward. Also, when you think about the game against the Chargers, man, if they input Penix in that game and they win, maybe that's the difference here in week 18. But I love the fact that he was playing in these high leverage games. He didn't flinch, which goes to the fact that he played a lot of games in college, Indiana, and we saw him play postseason football at Washington. So he was ready for the moment, and you love that he was ready for this moment. The future is bright in Atlanta.
It certainly appeared so. Taking a look at some numbers on Bryce Young coming out of this game. 3+ passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown in a game. You know, Ryan said it. Sometimes you write a young fella off too quick and you make the wrong decision. In this case, it was a second lease for Bryce Young, and one that he takes ownership of moving forward in Carolina. Don't take our word for it. Let's get you back out to the site where our friend and yours, Charles Davis, joins us to extend that conversation. And Charles, this is 2 young quarterbacks to be celebrated, neither moving forward to play postseason football. But let's go here on Penix first. A couple high-leverage drives, not just this game, but in weeks past. I know it was part of your prep in this one. I know he's played a lot of football at the collegiate level, but are we surprised at all about the way he hit the ground running for the Atlanta Falcons?
You know, Joe, we should be, because what's happening is these youngsters are normalizing things that aren't normal. Does that make any sense? The idea that, hey, you're just going to go out and make these plays and handle high pressure. Yes, I know you played 45 games in college. I know that you played at Indiana and Washington. You were 33-7. I know you played for a national title. But there's always been that jump, college ball to pro ball. B-Mac and all the guys that you work with understand that better than anyone. Yet this kid has come out in 3 games. Now, the downside is he's made these types of plays and his team hasn't won the games they've needed to. But that's also part of the journey. Here's the opportunity. Let's see what happens. But I think it bodes well for 2025. He ended up getting more 2-minute drills in the last 2 ball games, in the first half, second half, then maybe he gets in practice. That's how big it's been, and he's answered the bell just about every time. It's been fun to watch, and today he showed us the extra dimensions. We knew they were there. The long ball, hit that, right? Now he's getting there with the team. The ability to move out of the pocket and run on occasion. We saw that today. So things are advancing along. In 2025 and beyond, what's the old expression? His future's so bright.
I thought you were going to go sky's the limit on me, but the future certainly is bright there, and for some it takes a little.
That was a Michael Ray Richardson quote from way back when. Remember with the Knicks when they asked him, "How's it going?" He said, "The ship be sinking." What no one knows and doesn't remember, the follow-up question was, "Michael, how far is the ship sinking?" Remember what he said? He said, sky's the limit. So let's move on, Joe.
Even when we're not on the same page, CD, I'm always picking up what you're putting down. It does take some a little longer than others to get that speed, and it felt like it took Bryce Young maybe a season and some change to find his stride. Where did you see the greatest maturation over this last couple months?
His ability to handle the benching. Because let's face it, these kids don't get benched very often. They don't have too many down time frames. I mean, he took on one of the better high school programs in the country in modern day and had nothing but success. He took on one of the better college programs in the country in Alabama, had nothing but success. Won a Heisman Trophy, national, the whole deal, right? Now, you come to the NFL, you're supposed to do the exact same thing. And remember, these rookie quarterbacks this year, for the most part, have had success. He was the #1 overall pick, and remember, everyone was saying, we picked the wrong guy. Why didn't we take C.J. Stroud, who was #2? Guess what? After the benching, he handled it like a champ, better than most of us would have, and has come back and gotten better and better and better. And you see the confidence in how he plays, and that confidence exemplified by that push pass at the end that Ian described as Mahomes-esque. That means he's playing with supreme confidence, and he has it now. Dan Morgan, general manager of the Carolina Panthers, had to write down to himself, I have my quarterback. I've got to get better people around him.
It certainly feels that way. I know we've been focused here on timeline, CD, of these two quarterbacks, but take me to a shorter timeline. I'm just interested in your point of view of what it was like inside that building today, knowing what had to happen elsewhere, scores flashing on the board. Did you feel the air come out of the building at any point?
I didn't really feel it. In fact, the air wasn't there to begin with, but it grew as the game went along. They started getting scores with the Saints winning. Atlanta in the ballgame. Once they came back and tied it at 10, now things started to build and people started to believe, is there a chance, is there a chance? I didn't even feel the air come out at the end when we found out the Saints won right before the last drive. Now they wanted to win the ballgame. But it was interesting that we saw two teams that had to win today, Tampa and Atlanta, and both of them struggled. Sometimes being the team that's out front that you're supposed to win, that you have to win, is harder to go through. Tampa got through it. Atlanta did not.
Charles Davis, we are so appreciative of your work all season long. It is, I regret to say it, but it has been a ball. I'm glad you let me bring one out here, CD. That's our guy, Charles Davis here.
Listen, that's my man.
We're having a little trouble with the feed, but CD, it's a celebration as always when he is here on our air. The great Charles Davis on that call of what is hopefully a bright future on both sides of this matchup for Bryce Young, for Michael Penix Jr., and for these two franchises. Bryce Young, his points per game, 31.3 over the final three. I'd say there's a quarterback there in Carolina.